Have you ever struggled to make lasting changes to your strokes? For example, let's say you go to a teaching pro to work on your forehand. After the initial warm-up, they instruct you that, yeah, you have a pretty extreme Western grip, you have a low-high preparation, and also your contact point is fairly close to your body. You're fed a ball, and now you have so many things to think about that the forehand you produce is probably a pity to behold. This is the reality for many tennis players who are wanting to make changes to their tennis strokes, whether that be a forehand, a serve, a volley, whatever it might be. In my experience, I've never met a tennis player who's capable of changing more than one technical element in their game at a time. You might even agree and be enthusiastically on board that yes, all three of those things need to change on your forehand, but you just don't know how. Every time the ball comes to your forehand, you don't even know where to start. So you say, it's too hard, it's too complicated, I'm just going to stick with my crappy old forehand. At least the ball goes in. That's because you might have been trying to change too many things at once. And there's even a logical and science-backed way to make these changes in any of the strokes in your game. In Daniel Coyle's The Talent Code, the concept of chunking is a fundamental element in understanding how skills are acquired and how someone achieves mastery. The term basically refers to the cognitive process of breaking down complex or difficult information into smaller and more manageable bite-sized chunks. The concept is rooted in neuroscience, particularly the role of myelin, which is a fatty substance that insulates nerve fibers. For example, think about playing or learning a piece of music. Initially, the entire composition might seem a bit daunting or a bit difficult. However, if we think about it through the lens of chunking, all we have to do is break down the piece into smaller, more manageable components, practice those components and master them slowly, and then put them all back together to create the piece of music. As these smaller chunks are repeatedly practiced and reinforced, myelin is progressively laid down around the corresponding neural pathways. This is the process that makes the skill more automatic and efficient. And in his book, Coyle argues that chunking is an effective process because it helps the brain to better encode and also retrieve information. So why the heck am I telling you all this stuff? It's because we can use it as tennis players, especially when it comes to changing our strokes. To illustrate, let's consider the tennis player that we're talking about. You have a player who has too extreme of a grip, they have a low-high preparation, and their contact is too close to the body. You cannot try to make all technical changes at once. How would that even work? How would you change your low-high preparation, your contact point being too close, and your grip when the ball is coming to you at random on the tennis court? That's how this player has programmed himself to hit after thousands and thousands of repetitions. So he must reprogram himself, and if this is the process you're going through, you must think about changing your strokes as reprogramming your brain to recreate new motor programs. So what does that mean for us? It means that you have to break it down into components. You first need to practice hitting with the new grip. Then you need to master that component. Then you must practice hitting with a high-low high swing. And then you can focus on moving the contact point away from your body. But most importantly, you have to work on these things one at a time. You have to isolate specific and individual elements and work on them and master them and then put it all together to create the new stroke. When we're trying to improve, and specifically when we're trying to change our strokes, there's a crucial element that's often overlooked, and that is you have to go really slowly. Again, we go back to the idea of music. Picture this, you are handed a really complex piece of piano music. At first, it's a struggle to navigate those notes, know where to place your fingers, the timing, etc., etc. But if you slow it down and work your way through the composition, you'll start to understand how it should sound. Imagine if you tried to play that new piece of music really fast. You would just create chaos. It's a very similar process when you're trying to make changes to your tennis strokes. If you don't go slow and master the changes, you're just going to pull out the old stroke. Watch how slowly I've instructed Nelson here to make his unit turn to fix the low-high swing. It's almost a 7 to 10 second unit turn that he's working on. And when he's making that unit turn, he has to really pay attention to the sensations in his body, his hand, where do his feet face, face? What do his hips feel like? What does he feel that's different compared to how he normally hits? It all starts with using this deep practice idea where you must be focused, mistake-centered, and slow when you're making changes to your technique. So that means things like standing in front of a mirror and doing really slow shadow swings. It's almost useless to do shadow swings if you're doing them at full speed and there's not much going on in your brain and you're not paying attention to the sensations of your body. But if you're using shadow swings to make technical changes, they are a great tool to do this, with the caveat that you have to go so slowly and you must have some kind of feedback. It must be mistake-centered. That's why dancers look at themselves in mirrors when they're practicing their techniques. There are no shortcuts to changing your stroke. There's no secret, there's no magic pill, no secret sauce. Only having the appropriate information and putting in the work. And look, it's really easy to fall into that trap of wanting to hit the ball fast or hard or hit it immediately when you're making the technical changes. But if you haven't done enough repetitions of the new stroke or the new motor program, you're just going to pull out the old. Slow motion shadow swings lay out the foundation for the new stroke that you're going to implement. In essence, the journey to changing your strokes is a marathon. It's not a sprint. It's going to take time. You have to basically teach your brain to recreate new motor programs, and it requires dedication, discipline, and basically a plan to make those changes. So next time you're getting impatient and wanting to hit the ball really fast or hard while also making changes to your strokes, think about all the information we've just covered. Think about why it's not going to work. But keep this in mind as well. Myelin has the capacity to regulate velocity. The more that you myelinate your circuits, the faster you can fire them. So as you start to master that new technique, the faster you'll be able to fire the new circuits. So why does it all work? Because over time, the individual elements that you are practicing, you will be able to more seamlessly integrate them into your new stroke. So let's say if Nelson goes away and practices his unit turn where he just leaves the racket alone and just turns his hips to the side, if he were to do 30 slow motion reps every single day where he were really paying attention to what's going on, and he did that every single day for 7 days in a row, if he returned to the court, there's not a chance that the change wouldn't be on the way to being made. But this is where players really don't understand what it takes to make the changes to their game, and frankly, they don't want to put in the work to make changes. They think it's as simple as taking one lesson from a pro and, all of a sudden I'll have a new forehand, or all of a sudden I'll hit a better serve. That's not how your brain works. Great. Lovely. Have I just shared with you the secret to true improvement? Will you jump from a 3-0 to a 5-0 player in 3 months now that you understand this process? No, probably not. That's because you must understand that you're likely going to regress the overall quality of the stroke because you're making changes to it. You're going to take the stroke to an earlier stage of learning. After you can recreate the changes in a blocked format, then you must take them to a variable and then finally trial it out in a random or open scenario. So ask yourself this: are you disciplined enough to practice the right way? Are you willing to do the repetitions even when it means doing the work off the tennis court? Do you know how to structure your practices and sessions to really improve what you're working on? If you really want to improve your forehand, if you really want to improve your serve, the process for that is completely different than just taking one lesson once a week. And if you made it all the way here, I'd love it if you'd consider subscribing to the Fast 4. It's my weekly newsletter where I give out one actionable tip and expert guidance to help you improve your tennis. You can find the link in the description below. Otherwise, if you want to know why you should stop fixating on what your wrist does during the forehand, you should check out this video here.